So it's the Derby at Epsom this weekend, and it's going to be one of the big races of the year. And one of the things that I can absolutely guarantee you that is going to happen is that there will be loads of betting tipsters out there offering you their opinion and their angle on who is going to win the big race. However, I think the age of betting tipsters is well and truly over, because anybody can get much better quality information now using AI. Not only that, it can present it in a format that's easy to understand and give you much more depth than you will see in any newspaper, radio or TV this weekend. So if you want to know who's going to win the Derby this weekend and why, then just watch the rest of this video and I'll show you how to work it out for yourself. So AI just keeps getting better and better, and it seems every week I'm seeing a leap forward in some form or another in terms of how it's being used, the structure in which it performs all of its actions and all of those sort of things. And I'm constantly messing around with it because I'm really interested in how it can shape what I do. However, one of the things that I do use it for is a bit of research, because I am not a specialist in horse racing. Even though that is how I make all of my money, I don't actually know much about individual races. So I very often go onto it and actually have a look at individual races and learn a little bit more about them and all of that sort of stuff. But the interesting thing is, out of that, you can actually get some really good quality information. So let me show you that now. First things first, we are using ChatGPT 03 to find the winner of the Derby. We will ask it a straightforward question and see how it responds. 03 is a reasoning model. Early versions of ChatGPT just referred to its internal knowledge, but 03 can effectively talk to itself to find a better solution and to check its output. It can also search the internet for information, which it's doing here, to get the latest odds and information about the Derby. When it finds what it needs and has considered it, it will curate this into a readable format for the user. You can see here, it is summarizing ground conditions based on the weather forecast. It's also done a good job of highlighting key points on some of the race's horses, giving you positives and negatives for each runner. Delacroix ran well at Leopardstown, but has a poor stall draw and has yet to race beyond 10 furlongs. It's good stuff, especially for the novice punter. It gives you good information very quickly. I'm sure that if you repeated this to somebody else, you would surely sound like an expert. But this is really basic stuff. It's more or less looking around the internet to see what it can find, and then it's parroting that back to you, but in an easy to digest way. But I mean, it works really well. It gives you an excellent summary, and probably better than most summarizers, but it doesn't give you more profound knowledge. For that, we can start asking it more specific questions. If you are not familiar with how horse racing works in the UK, horses only qualify for certain races if they meet certain conditions. So we asked ChatGPT, how would a horse qualify to run in the Derby? This will give us clues as to the path for entry, and if that favours one horse or another. But we should also ask lots of other questions about the horses and the race. One unique aspect of horse racing in the UK is the wide variation in race courses. No two courses are the same, and some vary considerably, and that is what we find when we gather information about the Derby. We get an excellent description of the course, how the Derby distance will likely affect the outcome, and how much draw bias there is on the course. It also tells us which draws have produced winners and how many. It's surprising to see how many winners certain stall draws produce, but also how stall 1 is the coffin stall draw. This is excellent information, but if you want to see it produce that in an easy to digest format, you can ask it to give you a nice graphic as well. Getting ChatGPT to visualize the information that you have requested is really useful. This is something that's relatively new, but very handy when you're looking at using this sort of data. Putting all of this into context is useful. ChatGPT can help us there as well. We simply ask it to summarize the profile of previous Derby winners and give us some key pointers based on that information. Generally speaking, it tells us that the modern Derby hero tends to be a lightly raced, progressive colt. In the last decade, 19 of 23 winners had no more than 5 lifetime starts, and almost all ran within the previous 5 weeks. Crucially, 9 in 10 hit the first 3 on that latest outing, carrying an official rating around 110 to 116. So they're proven group class, yet still improving. A key factor are recent races. These races create the launchpad. A bold show in one of 4 trials is the clearest signal. So you are looking at the 2000 Guineas, the Dante, the Chester Vase, or Lingfield's Derby trial. A placed effort, rather than an all-out win, often keeps them at a backable price,
that tells you fitness and class are both there. The stall draw really matters at Epsom. Mid-boxes, especially stall 10, have scooped 2/3 of running since the late 1960s, while extremes are graveyards. A mid-draw colt can slot in, conserve petrol, and still swing wide enough for a straight shot up the hill. Next pointer. Connections are rarely a coincidence. Since 2001, Aidan O'Brien has had 10 winners, usually in the Coolmore Silks, with Ryan Moore or a similarly battle-hardened big day rider aboard. Those yards can campaign multiple trial runners, pick the right one, and even supplement late, all structural edges. So what about pedigree? Essentially, it's a Northern Dancer monopoly. Every winner since 1998 carries him somewhere, and Galileo, either as sire or dam sire, has influenced 7 of the last dozen victors. You want 10 to 12 furlong class, combined with a staying dam line. All these pointers are significant indicators of a potential winner. So far, we've looked at many different aspects, but we haven't sort of put it all together to create a much broader view. And really, what we're interested in is not necessarily how the course runs or which stall is favoured. We want to know and get to the nitty-gritty of exactly who is likely to win the Derby. Also, are they of any particular value? You can actually use ChatGPT to go into much more depth than that, for which we're going to have to use deep research.
So when you use deep research mode, you ask a very detailed question to ChatGPT. You click on the research button, and then when you submit that query to ChatGPT, it will come back and ask some questions of you. When it's got those clarifying questions, it will start going off and doing some deep research. And as the name suggests, it goes off and finds as much data as it can. It puts that into the sort of mixer, it queries it, it analyzes the data, and then eventually comes up with a report for you. So I often like scrolling down to see what it's researching to make sure that it is on the right track. Because, for example, on this particular occasion, for some bizarre reason, it started researching gun control policies for theatres. I have no idea where that came from. But whenever it does this, it always does seem to get back on track and end up with exactly what you were looking for. So here is the final report, and I think it's actually pretty good. On each individual runner, it's giving you a detailed description of exactly what those runners have done, how they got to the Derby, what their prospects are, and their positives and negatives. It's given what it thinks is a fair price for that particular runner, and then it's gone down each one of those 19 runners to actually give a huge level of detail. I'm not going to talk you through each individual one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to export this as a PDF and then link to it so that you can have a read of it yourself. But I think it's a pretty comprehensive summary of this year's Derby and would easily pass as a racing expert in its own right. So of course, we all want to know who's going to win the Derby, but the report that it's generated is particularly verbose. It's very detailed, but often you just want to get a quick overview. Thankfully, ChatGPT can do this as well. So I've asked it to produce a table of each individual runner, its rating that it gave it, and the odds that it allocated to each runner. We can see that initially it produces this in alphabetical order by runner. So what I also asked it to do was to sort it by its rating so that we get an overview from top to bottom of what it thinks the chances are of each horse in the Derby. Again, it's done a pretty good job of that, and it's consolidated all of that research information into a very easy table for us to view. So we can even take the research document that we have made and turn that into something that would be more familiar to a sort of tipping service. And not only that, but we can use AI to give myself less of a structured, formal English accent into something more exciting that would probably go with this style of presentation.
Right, lads and lasses, Derby Day is upon us, and for the first time in years, we've got a field that blends genuine star quality with a whiff of chaos. 19 declarations, 3 unbeaten colts, a Guineas winner testing his stamina, the Aga Khan's final Derby hope, and 2 £12,000 cheapies for Spice. Main win bet, Pride of Arras. I value that Dante turn of foot and can forgive the draw at 4-1 or better. My backup bet, Delacroix, trade around 3-1 on the machine, rock solid place prospect. Each way value, Nightwalker, 33s with 5 places feels fat. Best of luck to you at the Derby.
So there you go. I think it did a pretty good job. You can see how I interrogated it to start with and then started to get it focused on individual characteristics of the race and then just asked it that big question. And it's pretty amazing how well it does at these sort of things now, because I'm interested in individual characteristics of the race, which it can tell me about. But not only that, it can go off and do its own research, gather up all of the information and make some decisions on its own. And when it does that, it can present it in a format that we would like to see, whether that's a table, an image, or a bit of text. But for that reason, I think, what is the need for having a lot of those people that summarize this for you? Because all you need to do is go into an AI and ask it some of those questions around these key races, and it will give you pretty much all of the answers. And when you compare the answers that it gave us to the market, it's pretty good. And, some of the horses it rates a little bit higher, a little bit lower, maybe there is a bit of value in there. If not direct, maybe each way or via some other sort of mechanism. But it's done a pretty good job of summarising each horse and its chances. And for that reason, I'm pretty sure that the era of the tipster is over. Now, realistically, I don't think it ever will be, because ultimately you're going to have loads of people funded to create opinion. But certainly if you want to have an expert tip and assess the true chances of a horse winning at any of these big races, then now you know exactly how to do it. So anyhow, I wish you the best of luck on this year's Derby.